Our first work of art for the neoclassical period is by Angelica Kauffman, and this is titled Cornelia Pointing to Her Children as Her Treasures. Now, what we see here is an ancient Roman story. As the story goes, let me tell you, this is taking place when Rome was a republic. So before Rome was an empire, it was a republic. Ah, like a representative government, like you just said the neoclassical were interested in? Yes. So we're here in the Roman Republic period, and as the story goes, Cornelia, this woman here, she had a friend come over, a visitor, and her friend was dressed to impress, and she brought, so tacky, she brought her jewelry box with her, and she was showing off all of her, pearls and gems and chains, and she turns to Cornelia and she asks, Cornelia, where are your treasures? And Cornelia, not missing a beat, she turns to her children, her two young boys, and she says, these are my treasures. So burn on you, friend. Instead of valuing the insignificant or the shallow luxuries of fashion and jewelry, Cornelia knows the value of her children, and she understands them to be her gems, her jewels, her most prized possessions. Now, spoiler alert, her two boys will go on to be like exemplar leaders of the Roman Republic. So, yeah, she knows how and what to value. This story is presented to you, the viewer, because you're supposed to be like Cornelia. You're supposed to value those more significant roles as mother to the leaders of the future republic, rather than get caught up in the fashions and jewels and false ideas of status. Basically, this is your vocabulary term. It's a exemplum virtutis. Exemplum virtutis. It's fantastic, right? It's Latin. Exemplum virtutis means example of model or virtue. And in this case, Cornelia is the model that you should be following. She is leading by example, telling you to value your children and your role in society more than the status or the false claims of status. Now, how does this relate to neoclassicism? First off, it's an ancient Roman Republic story. So we are here in the 1700s looking to the ancient or the classical world. Also, Kauffman has filled the scene with all extremely accurate elements of the Roman Republic world. What? Like the sandals, like the attention to the costumes, the jewelry, the hairstyles, the furniture. All of these things are more accurate to the ancient Roman world. Now, she doesn't give us a lot in the background, right? So none of the ridiculous rococo of the incrustication and frilliness. Instead, we have a much more controlled space, and we're supposed to be focusing on her example of virtue. Okay. Now let me tell you a little bit about Kauffman. Angelica Kauffman is awesome. A total, boss. She was born in Switzerland. She trained in Italy, so she had firsthand knowledge and exposure to a lot of classical works. And then she found success in a very long, prosperous career in England. In fact, she is only one of two female members of the British Royal Academy of Arts, and she was only one of two women until 1922. Yeah, there were only two female members of the British Royal Academy of Arts until 1922, and Kauffman was one of them. In fact, let me show you a group portrait of the British Royal Academy when Kauffman was a member in the next slide. Here we are. So This is your next slide, and two concepts that I've presented here, kind of like vocabulary terms. So write them down because these are things that are going to follow us through the rest of the quarter. The academy and the salon. The academy, well, that's like those art schools that Louis set up, right? The School of Fine Arts, the Académie des Beaux-Arts, École des Beaux-Arts in France. Well, because France has become the center of culture in Europe, everybody's like, what? A school state funded about art to make us look good? Yes. So all of these nations start to establish these art academies. Our quick term for the art schools is the academy. Ah, the academy. And every academy will feature a yearly exhibit of the latest and greatest from their school and their artists, and that is referred to as the salon. So the state-sponsored art academies, the academies, presented their members' artwork in a yearly exhibition, the salons. The salons established an approved style and influenced people's public taste. The yearly exhibitions were referred to as the salon of blah, blah, blah. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking salon was a vocab word for rococo, and it meant a small room. This is confusing. Okay, the salon is going to separate us because it started out in these small rooms where you would put up your latest and greatest artworks and invite your friends over. But when the King of France started doing this in his small rooms, these massive rooms in the Louvre Palace, then people were like, let's go to the salon and look at the king's work. And then these were open yearly to exhibit the greatest of that year's art production. So in the summer months, they would be open to the public, and the art schools or the academies would have the best of the best from that year, from its members, on display. So that's what I mean by the yearly exhibitions. So every year there'd be a salon. The Salon of 1801, the Salon of 1802, the Salon of 1803. And that would be, again, typically in the summer, and it would be free and open to the public because the idea was come in, see the latest and greatest, and it's going to make you a better person. It's going to inform you of your culture. It's going to inform you of the greatness and grandeur of our nation. So people would go in and like buy pamphlets and maybe even have guided tours, and these would be extremely influential. Artists wanted to be involved in salons. We'll come back to this image, but here. Artists wanted to be involved in salons because, well, it gave them exposure to people who had lots of time and lots of money to hire them. And you might be like, ooh, you know what? I really like that painting there. I'm going to have that artist do my next portrait. Also, you'll see in this painting, you see how all of these things are lined up one on top of the other? You might think this is not great for seeing all of these artworks, right? This is just the style at the time of how to hang artworks. And artists are not stupid. They also know that you might be put way up here and your artwork isn't going to be seen. So artists are going to try to get those commissions for big, important history paintings or religious paintings because that's more space on the wall. And then, what if you have these tiny little paintings and you get put way up at the top? Look at this one here. Artists refer to these things when their artwork would be hung because they wouldn't have very much influence on where their artworks were hung. And so if your artwork was really high up there, you'd be like, I got skied. Skied means you got put way up at the top. I know, I'm going into this a lot more than I thought, but it's because we're going to look at this again later. So back to Kaufman. Here, this is a group portrait of the British Royal Academy of Arts with its two female members. What? Do you see the ladies? Dude. Now keep in mind, these are all accurate portraits of specific members. Looks like they're in the middle of a drawing lesson or a lesson on a body structure. We have a nude model there. Where are our ladies? What? There they are. Kaufman and the other female member of the British Royal Academy, they are limited to paintings on the wall. You know why? It's because they're women, and this is a nude man who's being sketched and discussed in this. These women can't be in the room, even in a painting, because if they're in the room with this naked man, well, they're going to get ideas. They're going to be so overwhelmed with lust that they're not going to be able to focus. And you know, women, they don't know how to focus or look at a nude body, especially a man. Whatever. So, this is just to elaborate on the sexism of it all. All right, so keep in mind, the Academy, the Salon, and now we've seen Kaufman. Now we're going to move on to our next work of art.